Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. I hope you're all doing well. This is the show where we get under the hat of all things franchising. Love my catchphrase. And it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's the 23rd of June at 5:15 in the UK, 12:15 in bits of America, 11:15 even in other bits of America. And because it's live, we love you to get involved. So please pop in a comment and say hello, and get involved in our conversations, because you are the producers and the directors of this show. So the conversation goes the way you want it to go. I'm going to show you what I have written down in preparation for this. Not much. And that is because this is a wonderful conversation between a community and between wonderful people who work in our fantastic industry. So what do we do each week on the Franchise Show? We take a new topic and we take a lovely guest. In fact, this week, 2 lovely guests. But before I introduce you to our guests this week, let me tell you what we're going to be talking about. So we are talking about the journey of starting off as a franchisee and becoming a CMO, and what role marketing plays in that journey as a franchisee, as a franchisor. And we've got a couple of fantastic people to talk to you about this fantastic topic. So let me introduce both of them to you. You will know Brittany Satterfield from Impact Digital Marketing. Great to have you back on the show, Brittany.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you so much, Harvey.
Fantastic. And it's fantastic to welcome Brandon Wilhelm from Hangry Joes. Great name as well, Hangry Joes. Brandon, welcome to the Franchise Show.
Thanks, Harvey. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Well, before we get too deeply into our conversation today, let's do a couple of introductions. A lot of people will know Brittany, but Brittany, if you could just give yourself a little introduction to anybody who doesn't know you, and sort of how you've got into the world of franchising and QSR.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. So for those who don't know me, my name is Brittany Satterfield. I'm the founder, managing director, and fractional CMO for Impact Digital Marketing. So as in the past, I've always introduced myself as we're helping franchise brands with their marketing. We help them with achieving more brand dev sales and leads, to national marketing, to the local franchisee marketing. But today I'll share like a little bit more background. Today is from franchisee to CMO. And while I have never been an actual franchisee, I have started my career in the marketing space, helping the franchisees from the local level, working with their specific resources they have available, sometimes small budgets, sometimes creative teams and minds. And then over the years, we worked up our agency and built it, where I now serve as a fractional CMO for many brands. So really, really excited for the conversation today and to dive in here with Brandon and Harvey.
Fantastic. Great introduction. Thank you so much, Brittany. And the same to you, Brandon. It's going to be really interesting, I think, for people to be able to hear what your journey has been, and how that's developed from, first of all, being a franchisee, and now going into that role of looking after the marketing for the brand that you started off as a franchisee. So yeah, tell us the story.
Sure. It's been a long, strange journey. I guess franchising was in my blood. My dad was one of the original Subway franchisees back in the early 80s. And so that was kind of in my family, in my blood. Saw him build that business. And I guess I started helping, moving back into the family business in around 2006. To help run the development company, which managed all the franchisees, oversaw development for Subway restaurants for the Midwest, Northern Illinois, Wisconsin, that sort of area, and worked alongside family in doing that. Became a multi-unit Subway franchisee, was the area developer for Subway, was involved with, helping a lot of franchisees get started, grow their business, that sort of thing. And then just about 3 years ago, after growing the Subway territory, I oversaw about 500 locations with 160-ish franchisees. Started getting involved with Hangry Joes, and then so joined that team in 2023 as an area developer and a franchisee in the Midwest and in Texas. And then I'm also a board member on Hangry Joes on the corporate side. And so as our company has grown and kind of been small, everybody throws their hat in the ring where they can help grow the company without us having a huge overhead budget. I've become acting chief marketing officer for the last couple of years, working with all of our advertising partners and that sort of thing to develop the marketing program for Hangry Joe's corporate. So it's
Love
been
it.
for years.
Love it. What a great journey and a great description of that journey. And I think it's really interesting to come from being a franchisee and then a multi-site franchisee to now looking after that marketing, because you know what attracted you to the business at the beginning. You know what marketing worked for you. You know why you made that decision. And yes, not all of it was marketing, but there's obviously elements of it that was a marketing strategy within that business. So fantastic. Look, before we get too deeply into things today, let's welcome a few people who have joined us already live on the show. We have the fantastic Simon Wise with us. Simon is a franchise recruiter here in the UK. Always fantastic to have Simon with us. Always adds great value and content to the show. So he's put hello franchise friends, great to have you with us. We've got Joe Caruso. Now Joe always likes me to pronounce where he lives and he gives me a score for this, so we're going to see how we do. Now I could Google this each week to find out how to pronounce this, but I like to not Google it and just try and remember what I did last week. So here we go. Good PM AM from high above the rainy and wet shores of Havre de Grace, Maryland, at the Susquehanna River and the Chesapeake Bay, the Franchise Info LLC HQ for retained franchisor advisory and franchisee recruitment, gateway for UK and EU brands to America. Look at that, to look at that bit to finish it. Well, Joe, it's always fantastic to have you with us. Joe is someone I would always reach out to if I was looking at doing franchising in the US. Great resource, someone who's really passionate about franchising. Always fantastic to have you with us. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on marketing and how that works within the businesses that you've got involved in. And also, I want to know what my score is today. I didn't get a good score last week. I think it was a 7.6. So I'm hoping to beat that one today. Who else have we got? Oh, we got the lovely Kelly Steinecker with us. Kelly has been on lots of podcasts and LinkedIn Lives with me. And Kelly is a fractional CMO. So she's going to have plenty to add on the subject of marketing. And she's put good morning from Scottsdale, Arizona. Y'all. I hope I got the y'all correctly pronounced there. Great to have you with us, Kelly. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. We've got Matt Smith with us. Matt is a legend, a good friend of mine, works in franchising for Wingers here in the UK, and is really passionate about helping people on a Sunday when they're looking for jobs, just like I am. So it's great to have you with us, Matt. He's put afternoon from Nottingham here in the UK. Great to have you with us. And finally, before we get into this, let's welcome the lovely Penny Hopkinson to the show. Penny is a person who can help you with your ops manuals. And I bought her book, and I always like to show her book now, but I don't always get it the right way up. So have I got the book up the right way today? Yes, I have. There you go, Penny. And if you want to get your ops manuals the right way round, then speak to Penny. Penny has put hello, Harvey, Brittany, Brandon, and franchise friends back in the office trying to keep cool on the second hot day after a wet, windy, foggy, cold fortnight in Cornwall. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. You go away to Cornwall and it's like that, come back and it's hot. There you go. There you go. Oh, hang on a minute. The score is in. I need a drum roll. I need a drum roll for the score. Great score this week. 8.1. Oh, yes. I'm pleased with 8.1.
Not bad.
I'm pleased with 8.1. Thank you very much, Joe. Well, look, let's get into this. So I alluded to the fact that when you first became a franchisee, there were elements of marketing that I'm sure maybe you weren't aware of at the time, but now looking back on it, especially with your role now, that they were working. So what do you think initially attracted you in terms of marketing elements?
Well, I mean, marketing was one of the things I studied in college. It was one of my majors in undergrad. So it's always been something that I've been interesting. And Harvey, is my mic coming through staticky with you?
It is a bit crackly. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But
we can still understand you though, Brandon. It's okay. But
I don't know if I need to get closer or further, if that helps at all, or.
Let's see if you get closer. Let me turn it. Look, this is the joy of the big. Right? If you go closer to it, and I'll turn you down. See how that works.
I can turn it up a little bit on my side, and then maybe you turn me down on your side. I don't know. How's that?
Let's go for it. I'm sure it'll be all right. What we can do is when Brittany's speaking, maybe you can even go onto your laptop mic, and that might work.
Sure, we'll try
anyway,
that.
Look, that's all part of the fun of this being live. Actually,
right?
It's the
that's
sort of
thing
thing
that, live. You got exactly. Dogs in the background and Mike's staticky. So.
Precisely. Anyway, look. So let's get back into
sure.
why. What elements were attracting you to the business?
Well, back it's changed a lot over the last 20 years or so. Because we've with the way social media and all that kind of stuff is involved, it's much more almost like a one-to-one process. When I was initially in this business, the local marketing, especially locally, was a lot of times we called street fighting. It was just getting out there, meeting businesses, dropping off sampler platters, all that kind of stuff, dropping coupons and mailers, and that was basically a lot of how you did it on the local level. The national level would usually, or regional would drive, kind of the deals. And so franchising, in our markets, we would have what we called local marketing, local marketing markets that had their own funds. And so our whole region would agree on what kind of specials or LTOs or things like that we were going to run. And so you had to bring in a little bit of creative, both on the culinary side, on the LTOs, if you were going to do a limited time offering, the actual creative on how the artwork is made for whatever kind of messaging you're going to put out there. And then you have to, it's always kind of a science or educated guess really on doing the research on your customers, on what they're looking for, and finding out how you can meet their needs with the proper messaging, and balancing that, because a lot of QSR is deals, right? Everybody is looking for the how do they get their portion of the deal-based customer, and how do we do that while balancing profitability for franchisees? Is sometimes you have to really, really drive traffic and buy traffic, and sometimes you need to, you always need to have franchisee profitability in mind. And how do you do that without running too high of a food cost, or, that sort of thing. So, and just, I guess I'm always intrigued. I'm trying to find that balance on how can we maximize traffic while maximizing profitability, and keeping our customers happy and showing them a value, but also showing them that, you can be affordable and a value. By value, I mean, get a lot of, quality for the amount that you spend, not just cheap.
So would you say then that when you were looking at the opportunity, that you looked at it almost from the point of view of how a customer might look at it? So you looked at it as how are they marketing this brand to the customer? You know,
Sure.
do you think that was an important part of your decision? And I know a lot of people buy into particularly a QSR franchise brand because they know it. They've gone there. They've eaten there. And I would have thought that's a big part of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's with a newer brand that's, we've grown from 25 restaurants to like 113 in the past couple of years. It's been very quick, but yeah, it's one thing that I was definitely intrigued by. It was like, is the brand cool, right? Does it come across as something that people are going to be attracted to? You can have the best food in the world, but if you're not displaying it properly, if your restaurant doesn't have like a cool image or something that can be scaled to have mass appeal, then you're going to have trouble driving customers. So
definitely
in our brand, I kind of noticed some of the positives and some of the negatives, and how I thought, we might be able to shape the brand going forward to, overcome those negatives you can
bring that experience. Brittany, there's some really interesting things that have been said there. You're obviously somebody who really understands that sort of local and national marketing piece. I really like, Brandon, what you said there about the fact that local marketing can be like street fighting, and I think that really sort of resonates. In my mind, I'm obviously of a certain age. I've got that old computer game in my head when I think of Street Fighter. But what resonated with you about that sort of local piece in terms of how we attract franchisees from our local marketing?
Yeah, and it really depends on the industry. So when I sit down and talk to a brand that's sexy, where they have the delicious food, they have a fun brand, it's really exciting, especially when they have really good video content. It's going to attract people of all different types. People that love food, people are interested in restaurants, people interested in investing, multi-units. It gets a lot of different people. But when you are marketing the unsexy brands, the commercial cleaning company, right? Like, oh man, how can you make that fun and exciting? You have to really sell them on the systems, the processes, the support that they get through it. Because honestly, the unsexy brands, like those could be the most successful. So the smart entrepreneurs, the ones that are really doing their homework into the franchise systems that they really need, we need to think about, like, who do we really want to attract? Like, are we looking for everyone who just like has restaurant experience? Are we looking for anyone who will pay us $1? We really want to identify who that target persona is when we're attracting franchisees. And then we need to mold our messaging around that. So of course, it definitely helps get a wide net, having the exciting, fun brand. And I think it attracts most people. But when you have a business that's a little bit more challenging, you're going to have to really leverage the areas and target the areas that people are truly looking for. So I think that, just kind of add on to what Brandon was saying there. I think, you kind of have to get creative sometimes when it comes to the brand you have.
Definitely. I think it's really interesting. We're talking about brands that are naturally appealing on one side here, and then brands that perhaps, there might be somebody listening here that, like you say, has got a cleaning company or has got a building maintenance company, right? And it's a lot harder to make those companies feel cool and feel interesting to a franchisee than it is a chicken, wings, burger type operation, because it's something that families go to, or you go to with your friends, and you can just make the brand cooler. But like I say, you focus then on other elements, on the process, because there's lots of people that are passionate about cleaning and building maintenance, and therefore if you can get those elements, that passion into both that local and that national marketing, then that's when you're going to attract those franchisees, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's a big, like, culture and sharing that atmosphere. It goes a long way. So, like, I always love to recommend, like, video content to share the franchise story, what's the process like, and getting in the day of the life of a franchisee. Because sometimes, you're talking about building maintenance, or like maybe it is a chicken brand, whatever it is, they might have this perception as like, I'm allergic to chicken. I can't even eat chicken, or I hate cleaning. I don't do it. I hire it out. So to get them past that, like, hey, I don't have to be a gymnast to have a gym brand. I don't need to be a cook to own a restaurant, and I don't need to be a cleaner to own a cleaning company. You only need X, Y, and Z. So sometimes video content, it shares the story. It puts people outside of their job of what they're doing today into where it could be, and it opens up possibilities. So that also kind of really helps paint that picture and breaks down that wall.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, Brandon, what do you think about video content and sharing stories, a day in the life? But when you looked at this franchise, when you looked at the franchise before, you were talking about Subway before, but how important do you think it was for you when you were looking at it, and now when you are putting marketing in place, for people to be able to see what the experience of being a franchisee might be like?
Yeah, I mean, it is really important. It probably was not a great strength of the last couple of brands that I've been with. It's something that I think probably should have been a better focus, I guess. And so, like, I kind of saw it as an opportunity with Hangry Joes, more than a weakness, to say, okay, we need to, I guess, get some more of those kind of testimonial life, or day in the life of type videos to show people having fun being a franchise owner. It's some of the, because I am still a franchisee. I own 3 Hangry Joes, and some of my fun times are like when I'm actually in the restaurant working alongside of our crew, and talking with guests and seeing how happy they are when they get the quality product. And it gives you a lot of pride of ownership when you get you're talking to guests and making them happy, and you get that feedback. And so having more of that content would be, I think that's something that's still an opportunity for us to work on.
I think you're right. I think it's really powerful. I mean, I've been involved in hospitality for 35 years, and the thing that drove me at the beginning for hospitality was seeing someone have a good time, seeing someone enjoy the food you've cooked, enjoy the food you've served to them, whatever it might be. The hospitality is, or the joy of hospitality in QSR is delivering that, like you say, going in, talking to the guests. And if you can show that experience as part of your local marketing. When I worked for a coffee franchise, I used to ask potential franchisees, I used to ask them to describe how they saw their day, right? And some were amazing at it. It was so vivid, their description of it. And it's really important to try and get that across when you're a franchisor trying to deliver this local and national message as to what this franchise is. There's the numbers. There's a lot of things that are important there. But Brandon, I liked what you said there about showing that fun side of it as well. And Brittany, again, you resonated with that and said it doesn't matter whether it's QSR or another brand. If you can show these elements in video form, it's really powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Let's have a look. We've got a couple of we've got a question coming up here from Matt, so let's bring this one up in our conversation. When marketing a franchise, how valuable are existing franchisees to marketing the franchise? Potential lead generation, referrals. Yeah, great question, Matt. Thanks for your question. Let's go with Brittany first on this. Have you, when you've worked with businesses and you're trying to sort of collect together elements that make up that marketing piece
Yeah.
on a local and national level. Do you say let's talk to your existing franchisees, get their stories, get that video, so that we can get that message out to people looking?
Absolutely. Anytime I work with a brand, I always say, like, especially like the very beginning when they just get their FDD, you need to choose the right franchisee. Like, you can't just select anyone and letting anyone in the door, because they're going to be your founding franchisee. You're going to use them anytime a new lead comes in. You're going to want to share their success story. It's going to be in your FDD. Like, it's going to be really important that those base franchisees are successful. So just selecting anyone is really important to avoid. You want to make sure that they are the right candidate, they're qualified, they're your advocate, they're going to be speaking on behalf of the brand, because they're going to be around hopefully for a while. When you do have a franchisee, when we do have a franchisee in place, you don't want to just blast them all over the website, because people can read, okay, yeah, there's a testimony, yeah, there's a happy franchisee, maybe they're in a different market, whatever. But when you use it, you want to use their story, number one, in your overview video. So not just the franchisor talking, we're the greatest, here's our process, come do it. You have some credibility with the franchisee. So put in a snippet, 5-10 seconds, about their success. I recommend a second video just about testimonials with franchisees. But that's not really going to be the big leading piece at the top of the funnel. When you're getting people in the door for a first lead, they're not going to go straight to the testimonials. They want to learn. They want to learn about your process, what you do, what makes you different, why should I trust you and your leadership team, and then they're going to validate it later. So it's really used as like, yes, we have it, we have happy franchisees, but you're going to want to set up those introductory calls, like after your executive calls around discovery day, to make sure that, hey, they have that one-on-one time, they can ask some questions, you can trust that franchisee, but the new leads are going to want to really know what's under the hood, how are things going, can I trust my investment with this company? And, they're going to be honest. So it is important that you're working with the right franchisees at the beginning. Of course, like any time, but I would say that the beginning ones are the most crucial that you get right. So yeah, I would use it in many different ways, but that's where I would start.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Brandon, what do you think about this? How useful have you found? You've grown, like you said, from sort of 10 or 15 up to now in excess of 100 franchise locations. In that growth, how useful has been the story of the franchisees that have gone before the one that has decided to sign up?
Well, I think it's really everything. Your initial franchisees, Brittany said, you have to pick the right people and have to vet the right people. And we haven't been perfect at that. We've had some struggles. And then, when I was at area development for Subway, I had the same thing. I had some franchisees that were just didn't want to play with the franchisor the right way. And so you've got some, I think, having good referrals and having franchisees that have shown their success and that know, that I want them to be honest with potential leads, the positives, the negatives, the opportunities, the strengths and weaknesses, and have that discussion and say, despite all of that, I still am happy with my investment. But it's also our job on the franchisor side to make sure that our franchisees are happy, that we're giving them the support and we're giving them the proper marketing to our customers to drive traffic and to do everything we can to make them successful. In the restaurant business, we have to do a lot of due diligence on site location. Location is everything. And so we have to sometimes protect potential investors from themselves. You might have a great brand and a great concept, and if they go pick a terrible spot, you have to be able to step in as a franchisor and say, no, we're not going to go with that spot. And
Absolutely.
You make those mistakes along the way. Then you can turn what could have been a happy franchisee into an unhappy franchisee. What could have been a great referral into somebody who's not willing to have it. So
You're right. It's really important, and most franchise businesses, I think, get this thing wrong. It's very common to get this wrong, because at the beginning you're wanting to sign franchisees up, you're wanting to gain momentum, you're wanting to build your business. And it's hard to sign people up, but it's much harder to sign, like you say, the right individuals up. And it's so important right at the beginning to get the right people involved in your business. We're talking about marketing today. And marketing attracts individuals to make inquiries about your franchise businesses. But it's up to the people within those businesses to then make sure those people are right for the business. And like you say, at the beginning, if you set yourself up with, I don't know, half a dozen, 6 multi-site franchisees that aren't the right ones, you're setting yourself up for a very difficult journey. And I think it's a really valid point. We are half an hour in today. This is the Franchise Show. Today we are talking about the journey from a franchisee to a CMO. It's been a fascinating conversation so far. We have some exciting news today as well. We have a new supporter for our show, going to be launching next week, but that's Zapid, and they are going to help people find the right people for their businesses and the right staff. So we've got a great segue as well, Brandon, into finding the right people. So looking forward to supporting them and for them to support us. So let's start to get into more of the CMO type role. We've talked about that journey as a franchisee. Brandon, give us a little bit of an understanding of what this role is, how that came about, and and what you're trying to do with it at the moment.
Well, I guess how it came about was we just weren't, as a brand, very happy with our current, I guess 2 years ago, our marketing and advertising in the way, I guess it wasn't a very efficient process. We were trying to do a lot of stuff internally. I, as a board member, was probably the most, I was kind of the most vocal about being not happy with the way our advertising was going. I thought that we had opportunities that we should hit. So I was asked to step in and for the first few months kind of manage the internal process the way we had it. And so I called it kind of herding cats for a while. So I did that for several months with the goal of not doing for it. But we had, a content creator here and a graphic artist person here, and they would come up with this and that. And the first thing I had to do was tell them that if anything goes live on our website or any of our digital channels or social media, you have to run it through me. If any POP is ordered or purchased, you have to run it through me, because we had some language barrier issues as well, and some translation type things that weren't translating very well. And I would point these things out, and I said, we can't have these kind of mistakes going. So, so basically it was much more tedious at the beginning, because I had to do a lot of the content creation myself, had to do a lot of editing, had to take a lot of what other people were doing and fix it, correct it, or have them tweak it. And it wasn't very efficient. But my goal all along was that we need to be moving as a brand towards hiring an outside national marketing agency. We are getting big enough that we needed to get to that point. So once we started pushing over towards 100 locations, I had a lot of experience with several kind of small to mid-sized national marketing agencies. And I talked to the board about, we need to go out on an RFP. And I know some of the presidents of some of these agencies, and we can go. I've already talked to some of them now that we've got a budget that I think we can use effectively. And so we went through an RFP process to say, okay, we had 5 or 6 businesses bid for our business, and we selected one. And now the job is much easier. So we were able to, sad when you got to eliminate some positions, but we were able to eliminate some positions on the internal Hangry Joes team that were not necessary. So we've got an agency that creates our content, where they outsource creating content to professionals. It's not, a handful of people making stuff on Canva and trying to see what works the best anymore. And so now I get to more drive the messaging. Our agency has come up with a great campaign. They asked me, what kind of messages do I want to get across to our customers? And then they gave me options to say, okay, this is where I want to go with. This is the direction we go. Yeah, this is our budget. And this is the media that we want to use. So I'm not the greatest content creator in the world by any means, but now I don't have to be. I'd say this is our vision for the company. This is the message we want to get across to our customers. And now you guys tell me how you think the best way to do that is. And most of the time, the agency I say, yep, I like to go with that one.
Brittany, this is really interesting, and you must come across this quite a lot. And this is a really interesting example. You've got a growing brand here that have kind of dealt with their marketing in an organic growth sense. It's kind of evolved naturally. You must have instances where you have come in as a fractional CMO and try to sort out this exact situation. Let us know a little bit about what the role of a CMO is. And what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime we step in with a brand, there's always different starting points. I will say some of them have a very nice foundation. We have brand standards, we have content calendars, we have nice vendor relations. Things are working fine. We have rules in place. And then sometimes we step into an emerging brand and they're like, well, yeah, when the franchisee makes a recommendation, yeah, we'll consider it and then we'll put it on, and then this person handles it and then this person does that. And it's a little disorganized. So when we do start on that side, we like to definitely take the time, take a couple days to go meet them out at one of their locations, learn about the brand, really get to know who they are, what makes them different, what's the landscape, what's the typical franchisee, to get that full scope. When you do fractional CMO work, it is important to understand those 3 areas of the business. Number 1, brand dev. Number 2, national marketing side, so like the brand, the strategies, and then the local marketing. How are we supporting our franchisees down at the local level? Because the local guys is going to be a different market than Miami, from one over in Maine, from the one over in Detroit. Although we might have a model that can be replicated, how we market might need to be tweaked. So we need to support them. Otherwise, we're creating a bunch of little strategies, supporting them. Hey, I need a flyer to promote my kids' soccer program that goes on their shirt, to hey, where do I spend my money? We need to be able to have our cards in place so that when we're rolling out a strategy, it's implemented from the top down, but within reason. So we're not just saying, hey, we have a brand standard, follow it, these are the rules, slap on the wrist if they don't listen. It's helping them understand the why. So it happens a lot when a franchisee will come to me with this great idea. And they're like, hey, I've done this. I've had a lot of time to think about this. Here's my idea. And I'll always consider the ideas, right? Because they're the ones right front and center with the consumer, and they can see what goes on. But sometimes they don't understand the big picture or the data behind the numbers. So say franchisee says, hey, we want to change this. We want to make it more relaxed dining. Okay, this is just a real scenario that just happened. And this is a brand that's known for quick service, in and out, but you can stay for a while, enjoy a beer, have a good time. And you say, hey, let's slow it down. But when we dive into the data, for those of you who have not had the time to actually look into your data, I love Vicky, just shout out to them. They do a great job of actually analyzing the data, integrates with a lot of tools, but where you can actually look and analyze why people are coming, when are they coming, how much are they spending, who is the first-time visitor, how often do they come back for the second time, and where do they drop off? Because that's going to help you create your loyalty program truly, instead of just, let's make it a free combo meal when you sign up and then give them a random 20% off coupon, surprise and delay. But really, in reality, you need to dive into the data, or you're just giving away free stuff. When we actually had time to dive into data and look at this, when I went into a brand, they're like, yeah, buy one, get one free pizzas. We're like the number one. We get that all day. It's the number one promo. Like, great. What's wrong with the buy one, get one free? Let's use that promo. And then when we got the data, the buy one, get one free pizza were turning into customers that didn't come back for over 90 days. And the ones that were coming back, they weren't even needing a coupon. They came because they wanted to, and using a $2 off coupon or a simple like, hey, 500 bonus points works just as effective as if you were to give away a free pizza. Sounds silly, but you're over discounting 90% of the time unless you're looking at the data. You have to look at the data. So while strategies like, it seems like it's just, hey, this is a national campaign. Hey, how are we getting more franchise leads? How are we supporting our local side? It's actually stepping it back and be like, this is the reason why. And that's the biggest part, because that's where you're going to make the most impact. It's not just this flyer looks good, but this is the right offer. This is the right time to the right consumer.
Absolutely. So. I think it's really fascinating. I think I'd like to get to a couple of things on what you've said there and talk a little bit more about franchisee ideas and how they come into the network, also about loyalty and coupons, because I think they're two really interesting points. Before we get to that, I want to bring up a couple of comments from the audience and get to those. We've got Satendra, who is the CEO of Master Franchise for KFC in Nigeria. He was a guest, I think it was last week or the week before. Satendra's put, absolutely, it's important to develop a playbook around every function. As a brand grows, it becomes much simpler to scale. And look, you know, that's really important, especially talking to Satendra about how you scale in another region, in a region like Nigeria. It's very, very interesting and valuable to make sure you've got those things right. We've got Michael Bushby. He's put, closing the loop on data capture through things like guest Wi-Fi has to be high on the agenda for operators with franchise models. Operators could be doing so much more through guest Wi-Fi and loyalty for their franchisees, ultimately their own bottom line comes back to the topic we discussed, Harvey, where there's investment on shiny payment tech, but not network guest standards. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, and that kind of brings us quite nicely on to one of the two things we were going to talk about that Brittany highlighted here, which was loyalty and coupons. And I'd like them to chat to you, Brandon, about this. How have those worked? And are you still finding those works and those kind of those deals that happen? Or is it really just doing it well, doing it right, and people will come back and pay a standard price?
I think what we've seen in a lot of our data is our loyalty, like the app loyalty customers who are like members and love our brand, they come back 30% more often and they spend 10% more.
Okay.
So yeah, we may give them some deals here and there, and we get, they're accumulating these reward points, and they turned it in for a free order of chicken strips or something like that. But that customer comes back 3 times as much as your standard customer. So like they are more profitable over time, even if they're getting rewards, loyalty points and all that kind of stuff. So it's huge these days. And all the focus groups that I've sat through, it's one of the top 3 or 4 things that all of the focus groups that I've sat through have mentioned, is that having a rewards program, having some sort of loyalty program is very important to a lot of people. So I think it's huge. Like that's one of the things that we tried to do right away. As soon as we had this big POS changeover and had everybody on the program, we need to actually go market this. That we have this, because like we had a loyalty program, and customers in our focus groups who were Hangry Joes customers didn't know about it. So like we had to get that word out, and it's grown tremendously. As far as coupons go, I think there's a place for them. Obviously, I think a grand opening time, pre-grand opening, blast mailers out there, like kind of sow those seeds out there before opening. I think there's some strategic times during the year where coupon drops can be appropriate. I also like using them for special events. We sponsored like a big basketball tournament, and a million people, but thousands and thousands of people from out of town were now in town for a high school basketball tournament, and I could get coupons with a map to my location on in all of their hands when they walk through the gates. Yeah, those are the things. I'm not a big, just like some brands that I may still be involved with. Keep throwing out FSIs and coupons over and over and over and over discounting.
I think what's interesting to hear is that, look, these things still have a place. They have a place in a growing business, in an established business. It's really interesting to hear those stats that loyalty is still an important part. I mean, Brittany highlighted this, and it's a key element of that marketing piece to grow that loyalty. And some of that's done with great customer services, consistent product, but some of it is done with these marketing offers that do tweak people's interests and get them back. Look, we were going to talk about franchisee ideas, but I think that's going to have to be a topic for a future show, because we are coming towards the end of the first part of today's episode. Let's quickly bring up a couple more comments. We have Matt Smith, who put, how valuable to driving guest loyalty for an emerging QSR brand is a functioning app. I mean, we've touched on that, and a great topic as well. And I think I might have to go to that one for a future episode as well. Let's quickly go to this one before we switch to the last part of today's show. Michael has put, flash offers, advertising a new menu item or discount code, etc. How do you do that if you're not capturing data, knowing your customer and knowing what they love? Loyalty take up in some instances as low as 1 in 5 in quick service. Look, you've absolutely got to know what data you're getting, what that is, what that's telling you about your customer, and react accordingly. I'd love to continue chatting. It's clearly a topic that's resonating with the audience, but we are always short on time on these, so we are now going to go to the last part of today's show. Now, this is the part of the show where the camera will go off for a bit. That's not because I've broken something, that's because I don't go and get another hat. You're not allowed to see me without wearing one of these things, okay? So bear with me. And here we go. Look at this beauty. Now, of course, this hat came from my good friend, Paul Murphy, which is PJ Murphy and Sons, bespoke British hatters. So if you'd like a hat like this, reach out to my lovely friend Paul. Now, this is also the part of the show where we stop talking about marketing and being a CMO for a little bit, and we try and find out a little bit about either both or one of our guests. Now, because Brittany has been subjected to this a few times before, I think it's Brandon's go on this. So we're going to ask you, you can choose between these things. It is also the part of the show where you get to ask me anything you like and get your own back on me. You've been answering these questions beautifully today. So look, I'm going to go for, have you ever met anybody famous? Have you got a claim to fame? Or have you got some sort of crazy, interesting hobby that we don't know about, maybe Brandon?
Either one. Or...
You can choose.
I have met several famous people, mostly in the sports industry. So when I was a camp counselor in college, and a lot of pro athletes' kids went to this camp that I worked in, and some other famous people. And it was really cool on Parents' Day when the parents came to pick up their kids. We didn't know if any of these famous, but we knew their kids. We knew their parents were famous, but we didn't know if any of their parents were going to show up for Parents' Day to pick them up, if they were going to send some. So I did get to meet 3 awesome people on Parents' Day. One was a legend to me, was Payne Stewart, a golfer who tragically died the following year in that plane crash. He was the most genuine, cool guy ever. I did not want to bother him, but I'm an avid golfer, and he talked to me for 10, 15 minutes, asking me about my college major, about how everything was going with school.
Did he give you any good golf tips?
No, he didn't. We didn't get in any swing tips, but it was just great that how cool he was. That I didn't want to bother him. He was asking me all these questions, and then
amazing.
I got to shoot hoops that same day. Shot some basketball with James Lofton, Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Packers, and I got to meet John Schneider, who played Bo Duke on Dukes of Hazzard, which was one of my childhood television shows every Saturday. So
amazing! I loved the Dukes of Hazzard when I was a kid.
So that was it was a pretty cool day.
Amazing, love it. Well, look, we do also end with you being able to ask me any question you like as well. You can now get your own back on me. So this is the time. You can let me get away with it if you wish. No one has yet. So
sure, Harvey. Now, excluding fish and chips, who has better food, UK or USA? Honestly.
That's a very good question. And do I sit on the fence here and support my lovely American friends? I'm going to try and think of what would be my favorite meal. Look, I've got to support the UK. I live here in the UK. It's got to be a roast dinner, hasn't it? It's got to be a roast dinner. How can that
sounds good?
Roast potatoes, a bit hot now, but yeah. I mean, look, I think there's some fantastic dishes from both, and I think we blend them together as well, don't we? As two nations, so we enjoy both. But yeah, look, roast dinner, but not on a day like this. That's for sure. Too hot. Well, look, we have now come to the end of today's episode. I'm going to just quickly bring up Charles because he's joining us all the way from Hong Kong. It's always fantastic to have Charles with us, and it's about 1 a.m. where he is. So I always appreciate him coming along, and lovely to see you, Charles, and I hope you're doing well. So we have come to the end of today's episode. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who has been with us live today. You really are what makes this show special, and I thank you for spending your evening or afternoon, wherever you are, with us and talking about this fantastic conversation. And of course, I'd like to thank our fantastic guest, Brittany Satterfield. Thanks very much for being on the show. And of course, Brandon Wilhelm, fantastic to have you with us. It's been a fantastic conversation. So thank you to the both of you for being on. This now leaves us just to talk about what's going to happen next week on the franchise show. So next Tuesday, which is, I think, I can't work out what date it is, 30th perhaps. We are going to be talking about area developers and what role area developers play in franchise businesses. And I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. It's not something that is commonplace here in the UK. It certainly is in the US. But it would be great to hear what an area developer is, what they do, and how they can help us grow our businesses here in the UK and all the way around the world. So please join us next Tuesday, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. Until next time, take very good care. Cheerio.